your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod and I'm so excited to be here with you this morning. I want to tell you that the rumors of my demise were greatly exaggerated. We, as you know, we've been trying to get a show in here and there the last few weeks, and we have a message of positivity this 2025 that we're gonna pump out no matter what it takes, right? But you will notice that my voice sounds a little bit different today, not trying to hide anything, and that I'm back doing the show from home just for a couple of days so that I do not infect our staff with the bronchitis that I am currently battling. Thank you for all your well wishes that you shared with me. I've been trying to keep it on the DL that I wasn't feeling good, but sometimes you can't hide it. And like everybody else, I'm working my way through it, because we got an important message, especially today. If we were to rewind the clock, and when we came back to do our very first show of this year, 2025, we did an Ask Dr. Doreen on January 7th. And at the end of that show, I was so excited to say to you guys that we were going to be having Kaz Windness on the show on January 8th. And I left the studio that day so excited about our interview with her. And the irony of the fact that her last name is Windness and what happened on the evening of the 7th cannot be missed, right? It was like her name was just a warning of what was to happen, that we had these incredible high winds that were fully nutso. And of course, the fires started. So unfortunately, we had to postpone her interview. And so I'm so thrilled that we're able to make up that interview today, because wait till you meet her. She's amazing, an author, illustrator with a new book that's coming out tomorrow that we all need. Not just our kids. We all need this book. I have to tell you, it's beautiful, beautifully written, and the message is so very near and dear to all of our hearts. And I don't know about everybody else, but I'm going to guess that a lot of you will relate to the story in the book. We'll talk about all of that with her in just a little while. But before that, just want to say hi to everybody. I've missed you. I've loved all of your notes and catching up with seeing what you guys are doing on Facebook. I've tried to monitor Facebook and see how you guys are doing. I know many of you have been battling all the ick and the crud around the country too. We're gonna get through this. We are. Si se puede, right? Anyway, I just want to tell you all that we are live right now on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and about a dozen other sites. It is the 3rd of February. We are already into February. And Punxsutawney Phil came out and said 6 more weeks of winter. I've never understood that as a child. I grew up not far from Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania. And every Groundhog Day, I watched with my family and just would pray that groundhog would decide that there would be no more winter. Because in upstate New York, the winters are harsh, right? But I never really understood this whole thing about how we're judging. Because wasn't there going to be 6 weeks of winter anyway? Or was it just going to be more mild? But anyway, Phil said, no, we're having the full thing. So brace, you guys, brace. We're not through it yet, but we will get through it. And it will be summer again. And for those of you in Australia, I hope you're enjoying it. Anyway, want to let you know that the chat is open and live because we're doing it in this format today. It's a little bit different, but we will be able to answer your questions if you have questions live. We do love live questions, but we know that a lot of you are listening in podcast and may have questions later on. You can watch us. We're a free download wherever you get your podcasts, and we hope that you will do that. I love that it's a free download. Let's not, who is it that said there's no free lunch, right? It's not that it's free. It's that we are defraying the cost of it by having sponsors. So if you are downloading the show for free and you're listening to it and a sponsor pops up, I hope that you celebrate that. I know when I listen to podcasts and the sponsor comes up, I got to fill the time. I'm listening to the ad, but I'm always like, thanks for paying so that I get it for free. I hope that's the way you're looking at it. if you find it really disconcerting and you're in the middle of doing something and you need, no interruptions, we have given you a way that for a very low cost, you can subscribe and get all of the podcasts that we do here completely ad-free. It does cost you $5 a month, but that's a pretty low cost to get everything that we do here. That includes Autism Live, Ask Dr. Doreen, and all of the extra special shows like Stories from the Spectrum, Today's Hyperfixation, Let's Talk Movies, all of those things and much, much more. When you subscribe, you go to glow.fm/autismlive. And when you go there, like I said, $5 a month. It's actually even cheaper if you do it across a year. But if you do month to month, it's $5 a month. And what will happen is you'll tell them where you want the podcast. It'll show up there every time we do a new podcast. It'll show up in your inbox without ads. So there you go. Another way that you can do that. And that also supports us. But we love and we work very hard to make sure that there is an option where you can get it completely free. So I hope one way or the other that works for you. We like to remind everybody here at the Autism Network that we're about providing information and inspiration. That's why we are here. And that information and inspiration is meant for the larger autism community, which of course starts with the beating heart of our community, which are individuals who identify as being on the spectrum, autistic, neurodivergent, neurodiverse, whatever words they use. They're the beating heart of our community, of course, always. But we also include in that larger community absolutely everyone who loves those individuals. We're here to be, advocates when we need to be, but whenever possible, to be allies and accomplices, right? I love Amy Gravino says to me, I don't need you to be an ally. I want you to be an accomplice. And I love it because it sounds like we're going to break the law. And for whatever reason, I think that's hilarious to picture me and Amy Gravino in a jail cell locked up for getting into good trouble. I could get behind that in a big, big way. Anyway, whoever you are in this community, if you care deeply about individuals on this vast spectrum and their rights and their ability to have a voice in whatever way that means to them, we're glad that you're here because that's what we are about. Anyway, as I mentioned, we got a great guest that's coming up for you, but we want to start with jargon of the day. This is when we take just a couple of minutes and we take a jargon term and we try to, it's funny because when we started doing this 14 years ago, my whole purpose was that this jargon was kicking my keister. It was like learning a whole other language that I just couldn't catch up. And I would go, I love to Google things. Google was pretty fresh then to me, but I love looking things up in a dictionary. I don't mind going to the library. You know what I'm saying? I'm not afraid of that. But when you go to whatever the reference book is and you look the thing up and you're no closer to knowing what it is, and it's somebody that you love that you're trying to help, well, that's frustrating. So we started out having a working definition, and then I would make fun of the working definition. And then an actual definition, I'd make fun of it. And then we would give you the working definition and a little bit of an explanation. Over the years, the reference books have gotten so much better. We can't take, any amount of credit for that, but people have finally started to realize that if you only speak in some high level jargon that nobody else understands, you're leaving people out. So now we've started including some definitions from different places to compare and contrast, or from AI to see how accurate it is. Because sometimes I love the AI definition, and sometimes I'm like, no, you left some stuff out there that's pretty nuanced and important. So our jargon term for today is one that I don't hear being talked about that much anymore, but depending on who you are, this might be of interest to you. So the term is prosody. And let's take a look at what our first definition is here. And it says the rhythm, stress, and intonation of speech that provides important information beyond a sentence's literal word meaning. And that comes to us from apa.org. Okay. I'm not in love with it, but it's okay. It doesn't make me want to run screaming with my hair on fire into the street. And sometimes these definitions do, let's be honest. But so let's move on to our other definition and try to see if we can hone in on why this might be important to us. Okay, using pitch, tone, loudness, rhythm, and inflection in speech to be understood, but also understanding the meaning when others use pitch, tone, etc. So now this helps me to think of this as more of a social skill, because we all know somebody, the joke version of this. You probably know the actor Ben Stein, who he's in the Ferris Bueller movies, and he just has a very one note when he talks. Everything is on the same note. So he'll say Bueller, 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 says it the same way. And then they had him do dry eye commercials, and then he did a game show for a while. But that's sort of his shtick as an actor, that everything is sort of one note. Okay, well, that's, for a character actor, that's fine. But if you think about yourself, have you ever been in a situation where somebody who, had a tone that you had a hard time understanding? I remember having a student years ago, and she asked if I would come and help their improv troupe that they had. And I had improv experience. So I came and I helped them. I thought, I did a whole workshop with them, and, you never know. And we got to the end of the workshop, and I said, was this useful to you guys? Because I had a really good time. I'd be willing to come back. And she said to me, she goes, yeah, it was great. And I literally said to her, do you mean it was great, or are you being sarcastic? Like, I'm not sure, because I was being very insecure in the moment. And she was like, what? It was fantastic. But because she was saying it and with no enthusiasm whatsoever, I wasn't sure. And if I weren't a pushy person, it's possible that I would have walked away and never done another workshop with them. But I did more workshops with them, and what a wonderful actress this young woman is. You've seen her in commercials. But my point is, it's not like we put so much energy into talking, right? And we've talked before on the show about talking is just the smallest amount of communication. That when they graph what people are really taking in information, some of it is talking, but some of it is gesture, and some of it is facial expression and body movements and tone. So when I think about a person and their needs, and that they want to communicate something, then prosody is just one of the tools in the toolbox. Because for a lot of people, prosody isn't a problem. But if prosody is a problem for you, it's going to prevent people around you from understanding you. But worse, what I see much more in my friends who are adults on the spectrum is that they're able to do prosody. That's not a problem for them. But they have a hard time understanding other people and knowing what that nuance is. And it's kind of a code that can be decoded pretty quickly. This can be taught so that people can be understood and understand. So not for everybody, but if somebody is struggling with that, now you know what to look for, lessons in teaching prosody to be able to help somebody. I think of my favorite book in the world, Madeleine L'Engle's A Wrinkle in Time. And it starts with the famous line, people don't realize this is where the line is from, it was a dark and stormy night, right? I wouldn't want to read that in a flat, it was a dark and stormy night. That's no fun, right? Lots of different ways that we can teach anyone to understand tone, inflection, speed for understanding. And we can help them to have fun with it when they're speaking. So prosody, a pretty important thing. How are we doing on time? We're pretty much right on time, which is absolutely amazing. I want to talk to you a little bit about the author that's joining us today. She has a children's book that is one in a series that I think is really important. And I want to encourage everybody. This new book comes out tomorrow. And it's part of her Bitsy Bat series, and it's an important book. I said at the start of the show, I don't think it is for children, but I think it's for all of us. I benefited from reading it, just saying. So let's talk a little bit about her. I'm welcoming Kaz Windness to the show. No relation to the wind that we had, just ironic. She is an award-winning author illustrator. And when I say award, that makes it sound like, oh, it could be anything. But I know that she's a Theater Geisel award winner. And for you guys who don't know, that's Dr. Seuss. This is somebody who's not kidding around. She's also a passionate advocate for autism acceptance. I'm going to ask her to talk about her relationship to autism and what that is and how she brings that to her work, because it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And she does have a very profound understanding of neurodiversity that she does bring to her work. Through her remarkable storytelling, Kaz aims to spread awareness, empathy, and acceptance for individuals on the autism spectrum. Her works include Bitsy Bat, School Star, and Bitsy Bat Team Star, as well as Worm and Caterpillar Are Friends. And all of her books embody warmth, uplifting spirit, an inspiring message that Kaz values and cherishes. By sharing her own journey and by embracing her unique perspective, Kaz encourages readers to celebrate the beauty of difference. Could we need this message any more than we do right now? Beyond her books, I love this. She teaches illustration at Rocky Mountain College of Art and Design in Denver, Colorado. She lives there with her family and her Boston Terrier. And if you want to know more about her, you certainly are welcome to go to windnessbooks.com. But she does have a new book that's out tomorrow. And we're going to talk with her about that book. But I read to you a lot of really wonderful things, but I want to tell you that I think this is a beautiful book in every way that I could possibly define the word beauty. Her illustrations are amazing. Her characters, powerful, powerful, powerful stuff. And we're going to get into that. So without further ado, let's welcome her to the show. Kaz, so thrilled to have you here.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. And thank you for that amazing introduction. I'm really happy to be here with you today.
Well, we're happy to have you. And I'm probably going to cough in a minute. So tell us about the new book.
All right. So, and thank you for the introduction to the book, but this is Bitsy Bat Team Star. And like you mentioned, this is out tomorrow. It is the second book in a series. So the first book is Bitsy Bat School Star, and this came out last year in June. And I'm just really delighted to share the new book and the new story and also a new character. So Bitsy Bat has a new classmate, and his name is Enzo Owl. And something that's special about Enzo is he is a non-speaking, and he uses an AAC device and also sign language to communicate. And in the first book, we discovered that Bitsy is the only flyer in her classroom, and she tries to fit in. She tries not to fly. She tries to sit upright, runs into a lot of difficulty trying to mask and be like her other classmates, and has a meltdown. And once she recovers, she decides that she needs to let her classmates know about her specialness, and she comes up with a special star activity. So they all talk about different things that they're proud of, that they are special for, and Bitsy is able to find that acceptance for who she is. But in the second book, Enzo, also being a flyer, challenges her idea of her specialness, and also it starts to shift her relationships. And I know for me, the reason why so many of my books are about friendship is that's the thing that I've struggled with the most throughout my life, but it's the thing that I wanted more than anything, to have those friendships. So in each of these books, I'm exploring a different aspect of autism. And also every book I write is some sort of self-therapy as well. So I do find that with a lot of other adults, they'll say, well, you're healing my inner child. Like they see themselves in these books, and we're able to recover this sense of belonging and self and value. And, and even through this process, and also working with a therapist, discovering that I really do have those friendships. And so this is really a book that's a tribute to those resilient friendships and getting through miscommunications. And I like that you brought up PROSODY. That's not a word that I I had known before, but I do understand the importance of it. I'm rambling a little bit here, but I have always had a really strong special interest in personalities and personality types. I was just thinking this morning that when my mom went on a date and didn't have a babysitter for me, I went with her and I spent the whole time like examining every movement of her date. And then he got annoyed and told my mom to tell me to stop staring at him. So I started staring at another guy in the restaurant and just watching the nuances of how he was moving his face or how he was making inflections. I was pretty young at this time, but for me, just wanting to understand how it didn't come to me naturally by any means. I really wanted to understand how people tick. And then I got really interested in personality types and even astrology, like any sort of formula that I could take on that would help me to understand how people work and how they work with other people, really with the center of that being that I was lonely and I wanted friendship in any way that I could overcome those barriers. And maybe make myself more likable. I wanted to discover that. So, studying intonation and really and watching a lot of TV shows and reading a lot of books and really just trying to understand how humans human.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, Kaz, I've known you for 12 minutes and I want to be your friend.
Oh,
and I don't feel that way about everybody. But you said so much there that I want to go back and catch up on. Let's start with, I had promised that we would let you tell us how you identify in relation to autism. What words do you use?
Well, I'm autistic and I'm also ADHD. So ADHD is something people say. I honestly feel like I'm so glad that we're having more understanding for these differences and for the nuances of them. I still have this sense that we're pretty early on in it. It wasn't even that long ago that we were calling, quote unquote, high functioning autism Asperger's, and just recognizing how that is insensitive in some ways. And I never want to tell anybody else how they identify. I totally understand why you might identify one way or another. But for me, being autistic, having that wiring be different is so intrinsic to every part of who I am from the inside out that for me, it is, I am that rather than someone who is with it. So that's how I identify.
And I so appreciate that. What I've been learning over the years is that it's so individual. Mm-hmm. And why would I have any part of that discussion other than to say to somebody, how do you identify?
Perfect.
Right? Because it is so individual. I know, we haven't talked about this, but my son, has very specific words that he uses. Mm-hmm. Often when I speak, I have to give a disclaimer and say, these are the words that I use because these are the words my son has given me. And I know that not everybody's going to like that, but I'm just asking, these are the words he uses. So let's just try to be aware of that. If you can't respect it, it's just hard, right? Because you don't know until you know. So I'm glad you could share that with us. And I love the idea that as a child, what an unfortunate circumstance for you that you were taken on a date. That's a little
right. Yeah. Right? I'm thinking about why was I there?
Well, desperate times, desperate measures.
Exactly.
And it sounds like you were pretty cool at that age, because to sit there and start studying people, I sometimes think, listen, I used to walk into, when Subway was brand new, that's how old I am. Or there used to be, I don't know if they have Ponderosas anymore. They were these restaurants you walked in and I always would say, where's the instruction manual? I don't know what to do. Do I stand here or there? Can somebody just give me the short,
exactly.
What am I supposed to do? And when I see so many, especially teens and young adults who, will say, I was there and there were all these things and I don't understand what that means. And if we can, hand somebody the short code for something to make their life easier. I'm always about, let's educate, but let's not try to force someone to have to do something a certain way. Educate, you have the choice. So, it's dicey, but I love that there you were and trying to figure out what does it mean when he does this.
Oh, yeah.
What insightful young person you were. Well,
I think I appreciate that you said that I was cool and insightful. I think I was mostly perceived as annoying.
Well, but don't you find, I find that that's people missing the boat. Do you know?
Yeah.
I have a guest who's going to be on Wednesday that, he's been told a time or two that he can be annoying because he's so persistent. But he's also somebody that was doing things at 15 that nobody else was doing.
Right.
So I don't know. I think we all need to slow our roll a little bit and ask ourselves, what is this person trying to do?
Right.
Instead of the getting annoyed
outside of the box and seeing new ways of doing things. I was often in work environments. I got in trouble a lot because I would ask a lot of questions. Like, if you give me a really good reason for why something needs to be done a certain way, I'm on board, but you can't just tell me I have to do it because that's the way we do it, or just obey me. Like, that has never worked out. I have been fired for insubordination, and I'm sure a lot of your autistic listeners will identify with that. So many of us. And it wasn't that I didn't feel like I was being insubordinate. I was just asking questions for understanding. And I think if you take yourself out of it, if you're not getting offended by it, then you have a real opportunity to perhaps find better ways to do things. I mean, that's something we're really good at, is identifying the patterns and problems, which is usually not somebody in power doesn't like you to point those things out. But I think we can provide efficiency. We can provide equity. We notice when people are getting hurt, at least I do, and wanting to make that environment better for everyone. So I think it can be a real benefit to not look at us as annoying, but look at us as someone that's identifying that really does need something that does need attention. Usually, if we're passionate about it, that strong sense of justice, like, you're going to tap us and we're going to go and give it a lot of energy to fix that thing. So, take advantage of that instead of like belittling us and firing us.
Yeah. Innovation. I find that a lot of times the person who is in charge, who doesn't want the questions asked, is because they don't know the answer.
Right.
And they have gotten used to doing it that specific way.
Oh, they didn't know. Yeah, that makes total sense.
That's why else would you be annoyed? I mean, we're both teachers. Why would you be annoyed if somebody asked a question?
Right.
The question is an opportunity. So I think of that as fear. And there are people in jobs that, aren't qualified. So when they're training somebody else to do it. But look, we have a long way to go.
Yeah, we do. We sure do.
Especially this week.
Yeah, and it feels like we 2 steps back, 1 step forward, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is why it's important we feel here that, we're going to try really hard to have a positive message about things we can do in 2020.
Yes.
And I was so moved and touched by this book. And that's why I said I think it's for everyone, not just your kids, but everyone. And definitely for all kids. In fact, I want to say to you, if you're looking for something positive to do today, buy 2 of these books. They come out tomorrow, but buy them, pre-order them today. Buy 1 for yourself and your family, and buy 1 for your child's school library, and drop it off.
Oh, thank you.
Right?
Yeah.
Because you will see that the message in this book, which is so lovely, there's nobody's being beat over the head with anything, but there is this wonderful character, Bitsy Bat, who, I feel like she's all of us. Mm-hmm. And here comes this new character, and she begins to worry about, who am I? Mm-hmm. If this person does this, who am I, and do I matter? But it's such a beautiful, beautiful message. And I'll tell you that when I turned the page and I met Enzo for the first time, Enzo's the owl who is not vocal and communicates with his device. And when I saw how you illustrated that, I just started to cry.
Oh,
it was so beautiful because it was so honest and so without judgment. It was just lovely. Kaz. Truly, I'm emotional thinking about it. I don't have the book with me. Can you hold up and show a picture of?
So here's a picture of Enzo, and he's so I've used speech bubbles to show what the symbols are that he's touched on his AAC device. In this particular picture, he's saying that he's sad. Bitsy is just lost to Enzo in their trial race, and she is being not a very good sport about it when he just really wants to fly with her. But as far as the AAC, his communication differences. So here he's using the AAC device to say hello and meet the fellow students. And we didn't want his communication differences to be central to the story problem. We just wanted to show that this is a different way that kids communicate in the classroom to normalize that. He also uses some sign language. So you'll see down here, he's saying thanks, and he's using, and that was kind of tricky to figure out how someone who has wings rather than fingers would use sign language. But here he is saying thanks. And it was really important for me to show, that accommodation in the classroom. With the first book, I had so many teachers and parents come up to me and say, look, this is the first time we've ever even seen noise canceling headphones used in a classroom. And when my child saw that, they got so excited because it's them. They're there. And just thinking about other kids in the classroom and neurotypical children, to just notice that that's normal. It is totally okay to have, these accommodations in the classroom. So showing an AAC device. And also the other cool thing about having these symbols used for kids who are learning how to read, even if they can't read the full text of this, they can still go through the book and follow those symbols and be able to decode the things that Enzo is saying. So it's an added layer of literacy.
Absolutely loved it.
Have a sensory room in the book too, which was something that I really wanted to show. So here's Bitsy taking a little time to herself to calm down, and she has her stuffy, which is one of my favorite soothing devices. And you can kind of see like some Legos down here, and a swing, and some bubbles and lights, and just a cozy, quiet place to recover.
Wonderful. And you guys can see that, it's just, you're a beautiful illustrator. My goodness.
Oh, thank you.
The colors, it's just absolutely stunning. A coffee table book,
Oh, thank you.
That you can be proud to be reading with your child. Just absolutely amazing. But I do love the fact that you just normalize things within the book. But then there is this powerful, powerful message, because we immediately, I think all of us identify with Bitsy and that feeling of, okay, I finally have something that I know I can do, and somebody else comes along and
better than me.
A little like, where's my identity? Right. Powerful, powerful. And of course, you bring it home in a beautiful way. I'm not going to spoiler alert, but you all need to get this book. And as I said, I really want to encourage you, get to move the dial and get one for your child's library or your local library, because it is an amazing, amazing book. I thoroughly loved it.
Yeah, a lot of people that have given them as gifts to teachers, and that's been a real special thing for them to be able to share with their students.
Absolutely. And, one of the things that I read in your press materials about, the brilliance of you coming at this with a very authentic voice. And I have to be honest with you that I love that. But if I had read this book, I would not have assumed that you had an authentic voice. I think the way that you so brilliantly weave through the story, that these are individuals and that all individuals have issues that they're dealing with or feelings that they're having. I really love, because I think a lot of people are getting hung up on labels.
Yeah.
And then the label, they go, well, all kids, do this. Well, no, all kids don't.
No. Yeah. Well, it's told from an autistic perspective. And I always want to be clear that this is my perspective. And there's lots of different aspects to autism. And that's why I'm so glad that publishing is recognizing the need for these books and the need for autistic told stories, so that authentic voice behind them. But I think also using symbols and metaphors is a great way to introduce something that is kind of a more natural or comfortable way to start to introduce a concept. And also that I want these books to be about celebrating the specialness of every child and just making sure all children are included. So in the first book, when they're sharing their special stars, you'll see there at the end that, they all have special needs and special differences, and they all want to be celebrated. So it's not just about, it's kind of uncomfortable to have all the eyeballs on you as one who's different in the classroom. Whereas I want there to be inclusive environments where everyone has the opportunity to learn and has the tools and accommodations in order to be able to learn. And also that it's not some of us do have special skills, but it's not those standout skills that make us valuable to our peers. It's just, we are deserving of love. We are all deserving of love.
And now you all know why I want to be friends with Kaz. Because it's amazing. And I want to know more about your other books. You have some of them displayed behind you.
Yeah.
Of course, I love Swim Gym. My husband's name is Jim.
Oh, awesome.
I may have to get a swim gym just for him. But which one was your first book? Let's start there.
My first written illustrated book was Swim Gym, and it's about a little crocodile who's afraid of the water. It's also autobiographical. They had a lot of trouble with water and swimming and facing the fears of swimming. And that really helps kids to face their own fears and not to be afraid to ask for help. And I think in these times, we really do need community. We do need to accept and give help. That's super important. And then you already mentioned Worm and Caterpillar Are Friends, which is a early reader, but it is a graphic novel, and it's about a friendship that goes through a big change. And that was the one that won the Theodore Seuss Geisel honor, which was, my first shiny sticker for ALA award. Kind of a big deal. So I'm just so honored that is getting noticed. And I'm working on the second book, Worm and Caterpillar, or Worm and Butterfly Are Friends Always, right now. But I also, I do really obnoxious early readers too. This is Cat versus Vac, and it's about a new vacuum that comes in, and it happens to be an evil vacuum, and the pets have to form a superhero team and fight the vacuum, and it's very obnoxious and fun, but helps them get kids into reading in a exciting way. And there's Ollie the Acorn and the Mighty Idea. I was the illustrator on this one, and Andrew Hackett as a second grade teacher, and he was the writer on this. And it's about a child who is tired of being bullied. And so he eats an acorn, he eats dirt, he eats sun, he has water, and he becomes, he takes a bite out of the sun, and he becomes a giant tree monster. And then he eats his bully. Because don't we all at some point really want to eat our bully? Yeah. So this book is about conflict resolution and also understanding, why a person might bully, so you can have some, awareness of why that is. So, it's, here's another fun early reader, Go-Go Dino. This one rhymes, and it's just a fun racing dino book. They're all in different wheeled, like a unicycle and a tricycle and skates. But it's been so great to have such great publishers that I'm working with that allow me to explore all sorts of creativity. Like these Bitsy Bat books are my most personal book, of course. And in that way, they're actually harder because it is more exposure for me. But you're going to find heart in all of my books, but it's great to have the opportunity just to be silly and funny sometimes too. And I think kids need that as well. It's more important for them to get, excited about the fun of reading, and build that desire to be a lifelong reader before you start like really having them read the hardcore, lesson-y kind of book. So I always try and have a good story and fun in my books as well.
In fact, you go into classrooms and to help readers and to do activities with them. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned that you're doing a lot of that this week. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I am. Yeah, I love to do school visits. I did want to mention really quick, if you are an educator or a parent, I do have lesson plans. Curriculum-based lesson plans are fun too at bitsybat.com, and activity sheets like how to draw Enzo, how to draw Bitsy. We have a coloring page. So I provide all of that. Oh, thank you so much. You even have it on screen at bitsybat.com. But I do a lot of school visits. I do public speaking. This Friday, this Wednesday is World Read Aloud Day. So be sure to read to your kiddos. That's important. But I'm doing 13 different read alouds, 13 different schools on Wednesday over virtual. And then on Friday, I'm going up to Boulder to do 2 or 3 presentations at some elementary schools in Boulder, where I'll be talking to them about Bitsy Bat and reading Bitsy Bat Team Star. And that's one of the most rewarding things about having books out in the world. I had an old friend, asked me the other day, do you feel like you've made it? And I'm like, I don't know if you ever feel like you make it in this, because there's always like, that next rung, that next thing that you're reaching towards, you're trying to get better. But the times that I feel like I've made it is when I go into a school and I can hear the kids say, is that Kaz Windness? Is that really Kaz Windness? And then just to see them light up when they read my books, so to have a kid see themselves in those books. So having the opportunity to go in those schools, it is such an honor, such a delight. And my goal is always to inspire them to tell their own stories, whether that's with pictures or with words or however they want to express themselves, if they want to act. I just really want kids to feel like their stories are important too, and to feel inspired to tell them.
Well, you're a star.
Oh, thanks.
Star. So no, you got it all going on. I want to acknowledge that Anita Schaefer said hello, and then she gave a bunch of hearts for what you're doing.
Thank
and Parker, you haven't been with us in a while, and I'm so glad to see you here. Parker said we need more love in the autism community, bottom line. Well, that is true, Parker. We're always trying to put some more in there. And Kaz is doing it in a very, very special way. So I just love these characters so much. Is some bright, enterprising person starting to figure out how to make plushies of Bitsy Bat and Owl Enzo?
Well, my publishers had several times been reaching out to Merry Makers, which is the biggest maker of like children's book related stuffies. So we've definitely reached out to them several times. And as it's becoming a series, there is one more book coming out I'm working on now called Bitsy Bat Snow Star. We really do hope that there is a stuffy. I actually made this, I Frankensteined it from different stuffies and sewed it together. The little sweater that Bitsy is wearing is actually my leg warmer. So I'm down to one leg warmer. And her wings are a little crackly because I was in a hurry and I just painted them with acrylic paint. But yeah, if anybody has connections to stuffy makers, like this would be amazing. But she's been everywhere with me. She's been to Austin, Texas. She's been to Pennsylvania, New York City, just going around tour with me. And it's also nice just to, yes, she's a prop, but she's also a squishy, stuffy, soothing thing that can go traveling with me.
And she's very cute. I want to say that I appreciate her, but you are a better illustrator than you are a sewer.
This is true.
Someone needs to take that in hand a little bit.
Yes, I will take that on as a true statement. Yes.
Because your illustrations are just so amazingly rich and textured, and anybody would want to jump in the page.
I wanted them to feel fuzzy and cozy and warm. I mean, there's moments where you can feel the stress that Bitsy's having the stress, but I always wanted it to feel like a warm, fuzzy blanket. Yes.
And there's something about the tone of it too that is not in any way, it's like I was saying before, nobody's hitting you over the head with a message. Mm-hmm. It's a beautiful story that unfolds, and you immediately feel you where you belong in the story. I think. So absolutely stunning and powerful. I'd love to, because we got a couple of minutes here. I would love to talk about, that you are a woman in this community. And I was just having a conversation with a parent the other day who has a son who was diagnosed, and now her daughter is being diagnosed. And she was having a hard time understanding that this is going to look totally different. Mm-hmm. And I wondered if you could speak a little bit to that about, how that resonates with you.
Yeah. Well, and I think we are less diagnosed because of those differences. And of course, everybody knows that the majority of that early testing was done on, young white male, autistics. So when I talked about that special interest in personality types and that desire for friendship, also the high masking. So I'm going to be less identifiable because it's not going to be, because I'm trying to have those friendships and I'm trying to gain those tools so I can have those connections. So I think that has been different for me, but lots of meltdowns at home, like being told at school, like I'm the perfect kid, with exception. I would have problems sometimes. I would just get so overwhelmed. And I remember throwing a textbook across the room, just like not being able to control it and having, a screaming fit. And it's like, okay, so I had a meltdown at school, but it rarely happened. Mostly I would take all that. I would be perfect at school and come home and just be a mess, just exhausted, upset, dysregulated, all of that stuff. And that's part of why, for me, it was really important that Bitsy is a girl. So many of the books that are out there are male-centered characters. And I wouldn't even say centered, because a lot of the books that are out, at least until recently, and we've been able to tell our own stories, they are othering the child. It's about the friend of the child, or the brother of the child, or the caretaker of the child, or the teacher of the child, rather than about that child. And also how, the character that's not autistic is learning to accept them or appreciate them. And a lot of times it's because that kid can really do math good and they save the day, and I guess we should accept them in the classroom. And I really didn't like that narrative. I really wanted it to be a story that did center the autistic character and, female identifying. I think anybody can see themselves in her, but I really wanted to have a female character. And also that it's not about what she does, and it's not about her being a great flyer. It's about her being lovable exactly for who she is.
Yeah. It's funny because I mentioned when doing PROSODY that my favorite book from childhood was A Wrinkle in Time. And, it's a book that I read many times as a child. And then when I had nieces and nephews, then when I was a teacher, it was the book that I chose to teach with the class. Then I had my own child, read the book with him. It wasn't until after my child was diagnosed that I realized that there are several characters in the book that are clearly a part of this community. And it was so eye-opening to me.
Yep.
But there's an example. And then I think there was like a 60-year gap after that. There's an example of a main character that's a girl.
Yeah.
Who was struggling with those issues, but nobody was calling it that then. I don't know that I've still heard somebody say, well, Meg clearly is in the community in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah. We've been here all along, and we've been in our books. And I think, there are actually a lot of writers, diagnosed or not, that are somewhere on spectrum. I think that is part of why I'm a writer is, seeing myself in a book was huge, because I could never really understand what was going on in somebody else's head. But when you're reading a book, you see it. They're telling you all of it. It's like unlocking the code of it. But I think that's why I became a writer too. It's because it's how I could understand and contextualize my world, and also gave me the opportunity to study personalities and study why people do the things they do. But yeah, we've been in these books all along. We've been here all along. So now we're just saying what it is.
Right.
Right. Yeah, totally.
And accept us, see us for who we are. Stop for a second, listen, slow your roll, and accept. Absolutely amazing. You gave me chills when you said, this is why you became a writer. When did you know? Which did one come first? Did the illustration come before the writing?
Yeah.
How were you a kid and you when did you know?
You hear about the kids that are really into horses. I was the art kid from the jump. Always drawing. I got in trouble all the time in school for doodling. But the thing for me is, like, I was understanding and listening way better while I was doodling, which is also a soothing thing. Yeah. Then if I had to make eye contact, that's all I was doing. making eye contact. I was not hearing what they were saying. I was not processing it. So I was always drawing. And I also struggled more with the communication piece of that, as part of why I really appreciate Enzo. To communicate with symbols. Even now, like I won't always come up with words, and I have to draw the picture first in order to like communicate it or come up with the word or get into the word. So communicating with drawing, with images was first for me. And even now when I'm coming up with characters and ideas, it always starts in my sketchbook. It always appears as a character in my sketchbook. And then I'm interviewing that character. If they start to tell me a story, I try and do my best to write that story down. But it's always images first for me. So I consider myself, some people say author illustrator, but I'm really an artist author. But I think, pictures are a great way to tell stories. And that's how kids often learn how to read, is by reading a picture before they read an actual word. So I'm always thinking about that when I'm illustrating, like how can a child read a picture? And also that's important in terms of the colors, that color palette that we're talking about, because colors for me are like the music. The music in a movie tells you how to feel. I think the color in a picture book tells you how to feel. So I spent a lot of time planning out what that color story is going to be and what those emotional beats are and how the color is communicating that. So even if you don't like recognize it on a surface level, you're probably picking that up on some sort of subconscious level, like the tone and the feeling of each page.
Yeah, I could, look, I look at a lot of books, including children's books, and I can tell when I'm turning the page for a book if I feel that like I did as a child. Yeah. I remember being a child and turning the page of Go Dog Go.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites.
Me too. And just being so excited to see what are the dogs doing now.
Yeah, totally.
And I felt that when I was reading this book. I was like, what's going to happen? Look! It's a whole other world I'm looking at.
Well, I'm thinking about the format, like that you have that luxury of hiding something from the reader and then getting them to want to turn that page. Yes. And this actually, Go Go Dino is a tribute to Go Dog Go, because my mom read that to me. It was one of my absolute favorite books as a child. So yeah.
Me too. And it's the book when people are trying to teach their children, prepositions and all the what's up and down and in.
Yes, yes.
I'm always like, where's your Go Dog Go book? Come on, let's go. That's the book to teach that.
Classic.
I love that you love that book too. But honestly, that's what it felt like for me reading this book. And that's the highest compliment I can possibly give.
I accept and thank you. And
it was lovely. So before I forget, let's talk about all the places where people can get all of your books, because this new one, it officially comes out tomorrow, but you can order it today, y'all, and it will be on the way to you that much faster. So there's many ways to buy them. What do you like to tell them where to buy
It's all good for me. Again, if you go to bitsybat.com, I do have links to all the different places that you can find my books. But I do have good distribution through Simon & Schuster. So you could walk into a Barnes & Noble. They should have it. If they don't have it, please ask for it. That's always great for me. They might already have Bitsy Bat. I bet they'll have some of my books. Online at your favorite bookseller. I always say support an indie if you can. Those independent booksellers really do need our support. My personal indie bookseller is Boulder Bookstore. And they do have signed and doodled copies. You can order those online. How to do that is on bitsybat.com. I love drawing in a book. I love sending you and your kiddo a message. But yeah, just anywhere that books are sold, you will be able to find Bitsy Bat.
Now, we haven't talked at all about your kids, but do your kids love your books? Is that just, I imagine story time in your house is just elevated.
So I have teenagers.
Oh.
And
at some point when they were little.
Well, they still, it's funny now because I'll put it out or the book will show up on, I get author copies and I'll bring it in and then everybody will look through it and then I'll kind of watch, and you can just PROSODY, right? Or just how they I can tell that they're proud. They might not say it, but I think they do get the importance of it. And sometimes they'll go to these events with me, like a library event or something. And I can just tell how I get a little more of a hug or a little more of a pat on the back. I'm like, they might not say it, but I think they do like my books. And I think they are proud of what I do. But, when they were kids, we would draw together all the time and tell stories together all the time. And even now I'll have them read my manuscripts, and, they're teenagers will give me very honest feedback, which I can take on. I can digest that. Not a problem. But, I do think there's
years are special.
Yeah.
But that's wonderful. I love that you're reading between the lines with them and getting that extra hug. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So, and we've got like 2 more minutes before we have to end, but anything that you feel is important that you want your newfound readers to know about these books, and especially Bitsy Bat? Do you leave anything out, Kat?
Well, I just want to send a big love message to you all. I know that this is challenging, and I know we're in challenging times as well. I just want to remind you that we are a community, and we're a strong community, and we do support each other, and we will help each other. And together, there's not anything that we can't do. I mean, we know how to organize, and that strong sense of justice and that passion and, lifting all of us up. Like, it's going to be okay. We're going to be all right. So, and I'm just so glad that Bitsy Bat is out in the world, like helping to create more inclusive classrooms, to create that autism understanding, to help to try and make it easier for your kids in the classroom and for future generations to have it easier than we had it. So I'm grateful to be on your show. Thank you so much for having me. This has been an honor. This has been a pleasure. And yes, I accept the friendship invite. Yes, please.
Yeah. And the funny thing is you don't know how rare that is for me. I don't, but you have a vibe. That's why I was saying you need your own show. You have a vibe that I would just watch you all day and listen to you. And between, your heart comes through everything that you do. But just the complete artistic sense of everything that you bring to just conversation. I looked at the book and I just loved the book so much. And then I saw your picture and I was like, oh, I'm going to love her. And then you did not disappoint. So
thank you so
amazing.
much.
Listen, if you go to your bookstore, ask for the 2 copies that I want you to get of this. And then if it's, doesn't hurt to ask if you can have Kaz come and do a talk at your bookstore. You might be too far away, but who knows? Like things work out.
Or your school, or I love that. And I actually love travel. That's the ADHD part of me. I want to see new places. I want to meet new people. I might need more downtime, but I love that.
Well, I love that. So take advantage of that, you guys, and always ask at the bookstore for her books, and ask if they say, I heard she's fantastic in person, and ask if they can get her to come in. We got to listen. This is a message that's so important for everyone, especially right now. So let's stick together on this. Get this for yourself. You will have a better day. And like I said, get the second one, give it to someone else, or give it to your child's school. Let's put good things out into the world, y'all. All right. Well, Kaz, thank you so much for being here with us. Thank you for your patience while we waited through fire and everything else to get you back on.
Yeah, I hope everyone's doing okay. Scary.
Yes. I mean, our community, I don't know if you watched the Grammys last night, but it was a whole thing about helping LA. And the community has really rallied. LA is going to be okay. It was unthinkable, absolutely unthinkable for, my goodness, almost 2 full weeks. Talking about changing the landscape, literally.
Literally, yeah.
But the human spirit, people have a way of overcoming all the other things you might disagree about to come together when houses are on fire and animals need to be moved. I was very proud of our community and how we dealt with things, powerful stuff. So onward and upward. But Kaz, thank you. This is such a pleasure. I know we will get to meet sometime.
Yeah, I would love that.
And, so nice. New friend.
Yes, new friend.
Yay. All right. You take care.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
Have a great launch tomorrow.
Yeah, thank you.
Yay.
Book birthday, book birthday.
Book birthday, yes. All right, you guys, make sure that you order this book or go get it at your bookstore. And like I said, get two. This is a beautifully priced, beautiful book. You will not be disappointed when you see the price. I know it probably changes on different sites, but let me just say before we go that we are scheduled to do a live Ask Dr. Doreen tomorrow. And she's been incredibly busy, and I've just been, I don't know what, let's not even come up with words to say what I've been, but we are scheduled to do a live Ask Dr. Doreen tomorrow. We're going to do our level best to make that happen. So please tune in because they're fewer and far between. And then I do want to say that on Wednesday, we have a couple of really incredible shows coming up. On Wednesday, Alex Lynn is going to be here with us. He has got a message that he shares with us once a year about his Autism Rocks concert. Every year it seems like there's going to be no way that Alex can pull it off, and every year he does. So he's got a new message for that and about some of the things going on in the world that Alex would like to have a minute to talk about his view of things, and we always love to give Alex the room for that. Then next week, we have a dear old friend of mine who is going to be on the show for the first time in a couple of years. I'm talking about Nick Yates. And those of you who've been watching, years ago, we did several shows with Nick, and he's got a little update about his life that is so amazing. I'm so proud of him, so proud to know him. So I hope that you'll tune in for that. We've got some really amazing shows coming up. I want you to know that we're going to be moving our studios. Anita said, by the way, that she'll check out the books. Yes. Anita says, yes, a strong community will check it out. And she also said, my granddaughter is 7 and loves to write. She just sold a paragraph she wrote about a silly book experience for $3 each. I love that. And Christina Mills, you showed up too. Christina, I'm so glad that you're here too. Oh, I just have to tell you, you will love this book, Christina. Totally. But anyway, great shows that we have coming up. I hope that you guys will tune in. I was saying that we're going to be moving studio. So we don't know if that's happening end of March, mid-April. Like, could it be worse timing? No. But we'll find a way to make it work. And have no fear. We're not going anywhere. And we're staying on our chug, chug, chug positivity message for 2025. Stick with us. Si se puede, right? All right, you guys. Thank you for bearing with my half voice. We'll see you tomorrow. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now. If you found anything helpful in this video, please give us a like. In fact, make sure that you smash that subscribe button on YouTube and give us a like on Facebook. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Instagram for important updates. And please download our free podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you so much. See you next time.